So hello and welcome to today's webinar. A big thanks to you all for joining again today, and a big thanks to Graham from Adobe for joining us again. Just a quick reminder, if you do have any questions, please post them in the chat at any time. There will be a section at the end, hopefully, that we can go through the Q&A, so we can go through that towards the end then after the half an hour. So just quickly, my name's Mark Price. I'm the Business Development Director at Pugh. So I haven't got much to say this time. I'm just going to go over quickly what these webinars are, and then we're going to go straight into Graham, who's going to be covering quite a lot on Firefly, especially in Photoshop and Illustrator, and examples in education, and then also touching on how these files can then be used in Adobe Express. And also touching on generative credits and the content authenticity tool then, which is a valuable tool, especially with education, to track where students' work comes from, whether it is AI or their own sort of creations from scratch then. But Graham will delve deeper into that in a short while. So, like I said, just quickly, this is a new webinar series. So last month was the first one in December. So if you didn't join that one, just as a quick overview, so we are doing this on the first Wednesday of every month, typically. Sometimes they will change depending on holidays and availability, but that's the sort of general date we're going to try and stick to. And it's just to bring you as much value as possible and to make sure that you're getting the most out of your Adobe investment. So enablement, best practices. We'll be bringing you updates on latest features and things like that. So we're going to try and make it as tailored to you as possible, and there'll be a short poll at the end then. So if you do have any feedback, we can incorporate that into the next few webinars then to make sure that you are getting the full value out of them. So yeah, I think over to Graham. I think we're going to have some live demos and yeah, to show Firefly in action. So there's plenty for you to go through. So yeah, over to you, Graham.
Thanks, Mark. I'm really excited about today. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. Mark, if you can give me a thumbs up since you're there. Yeah, perfect. So I'm really excited with the developments that have been going around for the generative AI, and particularly with Firefly in Creative Cloud and Adobe Express. And today is really what I want to do is to give you guys ideas that you can go away with and you potentially use in your classrooms, in your seminars moving forward tomorrow. I'll be looking at Firefly in Creative Cloud, as Mark mentioned, with Photoshop, Illustrator and Express, and hopefully we'll have enough time towards the end for questions and answers. So before I dive into the apps, what I want to do is just have a little focus on Firefly itself. And Firefly has been designed to be a creative assistant for you to make creativity more accessible and easier for you to develop your ideas and get them from your head into a tangible resource. And it's revolutionizing the workplace, and it's becoming more and more that creative assistant within the business world. Firefly itself is different from other AI models in the market, and that's because it's designed to be commercially safe. And what I mean by that is it's trained on Adobe stock images, openly licensed content, and public domain content where copyright has expired. And it's designed to generate images that are safe for commercial use. And that's great for you as educators because you get that safety in mind when you are using these features that I'm going to demonstrate today. The Firefly AI capabilities are going to be increasingly embedded across Adobe tools moving forward, and it's creator friendly. Everything I'm going to demonstrate to you is demonstrated from my background as a former geography teacher. So if you bear that in mind, my skills from teaching are aimed towards geography subject area, and I'm not a design specialist. And when we create the content, whether it's in Photoshop or Express, it's great for educators because it's easy to use, it's quick, it's available. But one of the other things is that we also attach a certificate to that piece of work. And what that is great for you is, you know, that if a piece of work has been used using AI or if it hasn't. So with that authenticity and audit trail, if you are teaching a concept where you don't want the students to use the AI features because it's in with your subject area, you know that they could submit the original file to you and you could upload it, which I'm going to show you later on, to the Content Authenticity website, and you would be able to see whether it's genuine work or whether they've been assisted by AI. And I'll be going into more depth with that as we move through the demos. And what do I mean by safe for commercial use and ethics in mind? It's our commitment to be responsible innovators, which means that our technologies and the processes that we go to develop them are ethical, responsible, and inclusive. 4 years ago, we established a comprehensive AI ethics program, and you can view that from our website. Before any feature goes live, we do an impact assessment, and that's a multi-part assessment. One of these areas is looking at potential ethical impacts, so making sure we've got diverse human oversight. At Adobe, we have got an AI review board, so we look at the new features that are potentially going to go live, and we've got a cross-functional group of people and employees with diverse professional, gender and racial backgrounds who review the output from the training to make sure that the risks of bias are removed when we are creating content with our features. And what we've also done as a company with this is we've shared our approaches and best practices, and we're working with industry peers, policymakers at a government level, and we are the drivers behind the Content Authenticity Initiative. And what I'll do a little bit later on is I will showcase one of their free resources that you can use to check for authenticity of work. And what I want to do now is just move into the apps themselves. So what I'm going to do is just come into Photoshop first. So Photoshop has got 2 features within it. So the first one is the ability to input new parts to an image or to remove areas. So imagine me as a geography teacher, as a geography lecturer, I may want to develop and use this resource for the start of a lesson. So it's not perfect for what I want, but it's the best image I can find for what I want to use. So what I'm going to do here, first of all, I don't want this rock face in the image. So what I do is I use the marquee tool and I go in there and I just want to remove the rocks or the cliff face. Oh, sorry for my typing there. Fingers and thumbs today. So I click on that, and what you'll start seeing is across on the right hand side of the panel, on the panel here, you will see that the generations are going through, and what Firefly is doing is analyzing the image. It's bringing up different possibilities, and it's going to remove that set of rocks in the foreground. And that's done relatively quickly. And what you will see is in any second that these images, this rock face will be removed, and I will get what Firefly deems as the most realistic variation. And on the right hand side here, I will also get the three alternatives. So it's given me one of the rocks in here, but it's removed that cliff face. What I want to then do, I want to remove the house. So because I want this to be a natural scene. And then this will give me the starting point for my lesson. This is definitely where we need the lounge music, Mark.
Might be a good point just to remind people if they do have any questions, just to post in the chat at any time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so this is just going to crop up, and you will see that when it removes this, the reason why it's doing this analysis is making it look really realistic. In Creative Cloud, it's all about precision. So we've got that there. Great, really easy to use. The second feature is the bit that I want to use to make this into a student-led activity. So what I want to do is I want to expand this image. And then what I want to do is to create a coastal landscape. So Generative Expand, what it's now doing is taking that image and imagining that we were stood at that scene, but we're taking a photo from a wider angle lens. From a geography point of view, this is great because I'm going to ask the students to do this. And what I'm going to ask them to do is to then tell me which is the most realistic scene. Why is it more realistic than the other images and variations that are offered? And then third of all, what land features are now brought up there and what processes are used to form it? And what will happen is you'll see that we'll get this option, and I've also got variations on the right hand side, exactly the same way when it comes to removing objects. So again, anything you've got options to pick for yourself to see, is that idea great? When it comes to design application and also Photoshop application, you can imagine if you've been out doing a photo shoot and in industry, you might get feedback from a customer where they say, well, actually, that's a great image, but can you take it from a wider angle? And what you would then have to do is go out and redo the photo shoot. What this will do is remove that necessity to go back and spend additional money on redoing the photo shoot. So it's helping that side of things. And again, what I can do here from that coastal environment, I can pick out which is the most realistic. And I'm going to go with this one here. So again, we can bring in that idea around bays and headlands, and then we can talk about processes there. Really easy to use. And you'll see that the images are seamless and look extremely realistic. If I move across into Illustrator, Illustrator is slightly different in the fact that what we're able to do is we're able to create scenes, subjects, icons, and even patterns. So it's great for jumpstarting creative ideas. So if you are wanting to do design exploration and bring in different icons that you might use for an upcoming project, or you've got a pattern in mind that you want to use as a background for presentation, these will bring in it's really easy to use and really effective in terms of that. So the scenario I want to give you is we're going to move across into Express in a bit, and we're going to be focused on a business studies, a piece of work for business studies as a subject. So here, what I want to do is to create a vector graphic depicting an office scene and that you might see anywhere in the city. So city office scene with people collaborating. And when I click on enter, what it's then going to do, it's exactly the same way. You've got the variations coming up on the right hand panel, and what it's doing is now creating the vector art to put into the canvas. So what you're seeing between Photoshop and Illustrator is that common functionality. So where you're using generative AI menus, you've got very similar features, so it's easy to learn. So that's going to come up in the next sort of 30 seconds or so, and then it'll come into our canvas there.
Graham, there has been a quick question coming if you want to do that while that's generating. So we've had one. So how do you get the Firefly option within Photoshop?
So what you need to do is to ensure that you're updated to the latest version and the features are in there. So if you work at university, college, and you've got higher education licenses, they're in as standard. With schools in K-12, the Firefly features are included by default, but admins do have the option to switch off the AI features for K-12. And at this point, I do want to point out that if you're in higher education, you're using the same Firefly training model that's used by commercial customers. If you're in K-12 and you're working with schools and students under the age of 18, if you're using that the K-12 accounts, then it's a separate Firefly model that has been specifically trained for use with school children. So that's great knowledge in there. The other thing while this graphic is loading up is mentioning about credits. So if you're on named user license for either K-12 or Creative Cloud, you've got every time you press generate, you use a credit. And what you do is you get either 250 or 500 per month, depending on your license. And you'll be able to generate credits, really use your credits to generate images. If you reach your capacity by the end of the month, you would go into what we call it's a soft limit. So you can still generate images above your 250 or your 500, but it might take a little bit longer to generate them. Because of the amount of Gen AI, that might be the reason why mine's a little bit slower, because I do love using it. So you can see that this image has been created. This is going to be perfect for me dropping into my my title page and my resource that I'm developing in Express. However, the colors aren't quite right. So when you select a group of vector images, or you select an individual icon, you've got the option for recolor. So if I click on that recolor, it's going to bring up this area here where it shows the prominent colors that have been used throughout the image. But then we've got a tab at the top here called Generative Recolor. If I tap on that, well, I've got sample prompts, or what I can do is bring in any ideas that I want. I want a bit of a retro feel on this, so what I'm going to say is 70s laser disco. So here I've got 70s laser disco. So what it's going to then do is give me different variations on the color schemes that I might want to use. You can see how quickly that's been brought up. If I click on there, one click, it's making those changes. I can go into another one. When I'm clicking between the variations, I'm not using my credits at all. It's only when I click on generate that I will use a credit. So that's the one I want to use. So when I go into here, I'm just going to save this. And I want to save it to Creative Cloud. because I want to use this in Adobe Express. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go across. So those are the two features within Illustrator. What I want to do now is just move across into a business report. So here what I've done is I've created a contents page, and I've used a template that is probably used for interior design. So what I'll be doing is I will be reworking this and making it fit for the assignment that I'm putting together. So the first thing, if I click on here, I've got my FY24 business proposal for my business studies assignment. The first Gen AI feature I'm going to show you here are text effects. So what I want to do is tell me what I want the effect to look like. You can see here I've typed in with some really bad typing errors. Missed the R out of background. So fine line pen with that's blended into the background. So I want this to be almost like a watermark. So then I've got the options whether I want realistic, I want embellished, pencil sketch, etc., etc. So what I'm looking at here, I've got my results and variations. You'll see that it's similar to Creative Cloud. So again, if you're using Express in a subject that's not a design subject, or you're working with design students, you've got that familiarity with the different the different Creative Cloud apps, and you'll see here that it's changed that in there. So the next thing I want to do is I want to replace one of these images with that Illustrator file. So you'll see here that the Illustrator business scene that we've just created appears in my stuff. So I've got my files here. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to insert that image direct onto the assignment. So this is great because what I can then do is drag and drop that into place. And I can replace that. Now, one of the benefits of this is if I'm working in Illustrator and I go and I make a change to that particular document and that project, I will get a pop-up in Express, and it will allow me to update to the live version. So there's no more reason to download and upload. You can just make those changes live. The next thing I want to do is I want to replace this image because I want something that's more appropriate for the business world. So I select the image, I click on replace, and what it does, it takes me to the media tab. It takes me to the media tab where I can bring in different stock images. Alternatively, if I click on the media tab, I want to bring in that text to image area. So I want a square photo, and it brings in here. And for my business plan, what I want to do is have product demonstration from a office worker in a London City office. I've got then the option before I press generate to pick the type of image that I want, and I want to bring that in as a photo. I don't want to bring any particular styles into that, and I click on generate. Now this is great because straight away you know that we've got here the different variations, but what we're doing is we're bringing in copyright-free material. So again, if this is something that's then going to be published, you know that that's safe to use. It's not going into any copyright side of things. Also, if you've got that Google image search experience, sometimes you can never find the image that you want. Here, you can use prompts, and I could go further and redevelop and refine my idea until I get the idea that I want. So here we've got that text to image, and what I'm going to do is insert that into there. So really, really easy to use. In Express itself, if you go to the main landing page, you will see that we've got different options for the different effects. So today I've shown you text effects and text to image. Generative fill, what I would be able to do there, we'll look to do this in another demonstration, is you can quickly and effectively remove objects, just like what we did in Photoshop. It's not quite as precise as Photoshop, but it can do a good job in there. The other idea in Firefly, so if you've got a Creative Cloud account, you can access Adobe Firefly, and again, you've got those same options to do quick actions, but when you go into there, you can save them to Creative Cloud, you can open them up in Express to add different features within there. And finally, content credentials. So I've got an image that I've created using Photoshop and Firefly features. And what I'm going to do is drag onto this verify page. And what it will do, analyzes that image, and down the right-hand side, what you get is a certificate which tracks the different changes. So imagine if I'd used a Nikon camera to take a photograph, it would bring up here that it's an original photo. It would then say it's been edited in Photoshop. If I was using color changes, changes to lighting, these would all show up within this certificate. And it's very similar, if you're familiar with Acrobat Sign, it's very similar to that audit trail that's created with an Acrobat Sign certificate. And finally, I know we're close to time, we've only got about 1 or 2 minutes left, but finally, the other thing I want to share with you are free resources that you can use, and I'm going to paste this into the chat, around advice for generative AI for leaders, generative AI for educators, and text to image. There are also different lesson plans and also different features within there that you can use to develop your teaching ideas. So here is the link to that page, and we'll share it with you afterwards as well. So thank you very much. This has been a whistle-stop tour, and we've showcased 5 to 10 features there that all use generative AI.